One last thing before we finish up, guys, because time is against us today. But I've seen Thiago scapegoated an awful lot by some Liverpool fans on social media, and I wanted to get your opinion on it because, okay, we aren't seeing the best Thiago Alcantara, but there are mitigating circumstances as to why we're not seeing the best Thiago, and I think the most obvious one, Steve, is El Capitan isn't standing beside him in midfield.
I mean, it's massive. If you were, if you could have a little look inside Jurgen Klopp's notebook at the start of the season when he was, looking at Thiago, I'll bet he had him written down next to Henderson and Fabinho or something along those lines. And all of a sudden, we're looking at him now to, in a brand new team, brand new country, a brand new way of playing. We're looking at him to be our saviour, and it was never going to happen. And it's a funny one, isn't it? We're asking him to play a completely different role to the one he's performed at Bayern for the last few years. And if you watch the Champions League final, Bayern and PSG, he was just unreal, wasn't he? He absolutely bossed the game, and that's the player that we want. But he was playing in a 4-2-3-1, alongside somebody. He didn't have to anchor a midfield on his own. He didn't have to anchor a midfield that's probably playing 20 yards deeper than it should be because of the defenders, not being there. It's a completely different situation. And if someone says what's wrong with Liverpool at the moment, he wouldn't even be in my top 10. It just wouldn't. He is that good that it's up to us to bring the best out of him. I put zero blame at his feet or even at his signing, because I think he's that good, and I think it's there's more going on than the fact that we can't get the best out of arguably the best midfielder in the world. I think that's our mistake. That's not his problem.
He needs to stop going to ground so early in games, though. I mean, we've got to get that one in. I mean, he's picking up yellow cards for fun lately.
He's worse at tackling than Paul Scholes, isn't he? He's that kind of tackler. He is awful at tackling.
At least we haven't seen his nuts yet. At least there is that.
It's another thing. I think with Thiago, I wouldn't read too much into that yet, because I think it's just him adjusting to English football. He's a very small midfielder. You wouldn't believe it with the amount of aerial duels he seems to be winning. But he's adjusting to a more aggressive, physical league, and the Premier League is, and he's not shying away from that. And he goes into a big game against Manchester City and makes a crunching challenge on City's best midfielder at the moment in the early stages. I don't mind that. He got it completely wrong. He picks up a yellow card, which made us struggle for the rest of the game. And we talk about Klopp bringing Curtis Jones off. Don't forget, Thiago was also brought off in that double substitution. And maybe he was some of the impact we lost too. But I do agree with you. I think a lot of it isn't Thiago's fault. I think a lot of it is the players just saw him come in and recognise his world-class ability and the name Thiago Alcantara and just thought that he was the one that was going to control things in midfield and be the creativity from midfielders. Henderson and Fabinho have both been at the back, and for somebody adjusting to a new style of football, to a new team, to a new league, I think it's incredibly hard for him. And we're not making him look good at the minute, and he was brought into play in this world-class Premier League champions with Virgil van Dijk behind him, alongside Fabinho and Jordan Henderson in a midfield that would be perfectly balanced and have some tenacity and creativity and flair and all the stuff Thiago brings. But at the minute, we're not seeing that, and we will see more of the brilliance from Thiago Alcantara when he has Fabinho behind him, and when he has Henderson next to him, and when he has Virgil van Dijk behind him. But it's still a long time coming. These next few weeks and months with what we've got is looking slightly painful.
You know what, though? 1 week he's playing as a number 6. 1 week he's playing left of a 3. 1 week he's playing right of a 3. Next week he's playing sort of a number 10 or a double number 10, as Klopp said, didn't he, the other week against West Ham. I bet 1 week he's playing with Milner, 1 week he's playing with Curtis Jones, then Gini Wijnaldum's in there. I bet he doesn't know whether he's coming or going. The guys behind him are changing every week. What a nightmare time to come into a new club and a new country and a new setup. I have a lot of sympathy for him. The fact is, he is a phenomenal footballer, and if the rest of the players were doing what they have been doing over the past 2 or 3 years, he'd be complimenting that, no question.